Again, in the context of Supreme Court, it was only day before yesterday we had spoken about it. There is absolutely a necessity to speak about it today too. You are aware that the Supreme Court has today rejected the centre government's appeal for bringing a stay on Andhra Pradesh's court verdict regarding the 4.5% reservation. We like to say here that the Congress party, particularly with a particular reference to the Union Law Minister, we find that there is a certain level of brazenness with which they have been continuing their communal agenda, a brazenness with which they had, sometime even in September last year, indicated that following the Andhra Pradesh module that they would, which they are closely observing, they would like to bring in legislations to provide for this 4.5% reservation. We will be giving you a press release in which that quotation is also being recalled. Knowing very well, even at that point in time, when in September in Hyderabad, Sri Salman Khurshid had given that statement saying that they are closely observing the Andhra Pradesh module and will probably work out a legislation for religion-based reservations. Even by that time, there was an appeal in the Supreme Court which the court is considering, whether that was permissible or not. It was sub judice then and it continues to be sub judice even now, aside from this 4.5% case which has come up subsequent to the UP elections. So there is a case already in Supreme Court as regards religion-based reservation which has come up from a situation which has come over as a result of some measures taken by the Congress government in Andhra Pradesh. Even then the minister knew that it was matter sub judice, but then he was very clear in saying that he is looking into the AP model and therefore there would be something worked out, even if necessary passing a legislative step. Then you find that the same minister, the law minister who was supposed to be keeping up the law of the land, goes to Farrukhabad where his wife was contesting at that time the election to say, let the EC hang me if it so chooses to, but I will certainly go ahead doing it. He dared the EC. He in fact threw a challenge saying, let the EC hang me, but I will still go ahead. The reason why we started off saying at the beginning of this press conference that there is a certain brazenness with which the Congress is going ahead on this religion-based quota issue. I'm citing examples to say that there is a continuing brazenness, knowing very well that this is not possible through the existing laws and also very clearly maybe not sustainable under the Constitution, which of course the Supreme Court is looking into it, and with due respects we are conscious of the fact that it is sub judice, but we would certainly like to say that as a political party we find the Congress party taking a very brazen approach in it, and these are the instances with which I want to prove this point. So in UP, where the law minister's wife contests an election, the union law minister goes to say, let the EC hang me, but I will come up with a legislation, knowing very well it's not sustainable. And EC being a constitutional body, pulled him up. He challenged them to hang him, but because they are a constitutional body, they have pulled him up. Metaphorically speaking, that was definitely taking him to task. And subsequently, after the Andhra Pradesh High Court, following what had happened in UP elections, during the UP elections, when somebody had gone to the court there, had raised this issue and took it to the court in AP High Court, it was definitely rejected. And all of us know the kind of observations which the Andhra Pradesh High Court had come up with. Carelessness. No intelligible considerations in building the case. These were the observations of the Andhra Pradesh High Court, which of course even in day before yesterday we had referred to. Now in spite of all this, if the Congress party thinks that it can continue with its communal agenda for the sake of getting votes and remain in power, it is sadly and unfortunately misleading the people of India and particularly the minorities. It is just not misleading them, but there is a certain kind of disappointment which you have seen in the last few months. And I recall the media had reported that several Muslim organizations themselves had come out during the UP election saying we'll expose the Congress's ploy as regards the reservation politics that they were playing up. So end of the day, it's not clear why they would want to continue with their appeasement agenda. It has been their standard practice to win vote, but it has been rejected, repeatedly rejected, both by the people of India and also by the courts. Now again, of course, the court has admitted the case, notices have been issued, but we think that the Congress party has played this game for too long, let down the people of this country for too long, and repeatedly, knowing very well it is not sustainable, they have been misleading the people of India. The BJP demands that the Congress party apologize to the people of India for playing this kind of a game and continuing to fool the people of this country, saying we will get a legislation, we will give you a sub-quota, we'll take it out of OBC quota, somehow we will give you a religion-based. I'm sorry, I think this country needs development, all-round development, opportunities for their children. People are looking for jobs, people are looking for electricity, people are looking for investments so that there are more opportunities for everybody. This kind of a reservation, quota, and other politics which has been playing in the minds of the Congress party, with which they have repeatedly cheated the people of this country, I think stands exposed. Although it has been repeatedly exposed, today too it has stood completely out in the pale, and very clearly it is standing exposed, and we demand that the Congress party apologize to this nation for playing this kind of an appeasement politics. हम कांग्रेस पार्टी से क्षमा मांगने के लिए डिमांड कर रहे हैं, आप जनता को गुमराह ना करना, रिजर्वेशन रिलीजन बेस्ड नहीं होगी, और ये डेफिनेटली पब्लिक को फूल करने वाले षड्यंत्र है कांग्रेस के, सिर्फ इसीलिए कि वो पावर में रहना चाह रहे हैं और उनके मन में ये है बात कि वोट हमें ब्लॉक वोट मिल जाएगा, कैसे भी हम सत्ता पे आएंगे. ये गलतफहमी है. आज जनता डेवलपमेंट चाह रहे हैं, आज जनता रोजगार चाह रहे हैं और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चाह रहे हैं और डेवलपमेंट ऑलराउंड चाह रहे हैं, सबके लिए चाह रहे हैं. आप डिवाइड एंड रूल पॉलिसी को छोड़िए, क्षमा मांगिए जनता से फॉर हैविंग डन दिस काइंड ऑफ अ मिसलीडिंग पॉलिटिक्स ऑल द वे. The second issue is about the ratings, Standard and Poor, about which my senior colleague Prakash Javadekar ji had spoken to you all yesterday. The finance minister has come out very strongly rejecting the S&P report. He has gone to the extent of saying S&P ratings are not based on fresh rating action. I'm quoting the finance minister on this. S&P ratings are not based on fresh rating action. And between April 2012 and now, there are no significant events to indicate that the economy is vulnerable. These are words of the finance minister. Unfortunately, within a few hours after that, you had these figures about April industrial production also coming down, almost touching zero, was revealed. And that's happening in April. And finance minister had said between April and now, ऐसे एक इंडिकेटर कुछ नहीं है जिसके तहत आप S&P ऐसे बोल सकते हैं. बिल्कुल अप्रैल में ही इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन गिरा. It has come down to zero. Just as a fig leaf, you have 0.1%. The economy is in a state of shambles. There is no doubt about that. And if you reject S&P's report, as foreigners do not understand our system here, particularly because SNP had said the division of power between the Prime Minister and the UPA chairperson has led to the policy paralysis. Very well, you don't want SNP report, it's fine. But your own chief economic advisor, Sri Kaushik Basu, only last Friday, talking at Exim Bank's gathering in Mumbai, has said that economic paralysis is because what is happening here in the country. You reject the SNP report, I have no issues with that. And I would like to quote what Dr. Kaushik Basu has said in the Exim Bank's meeting in Mumbai. I'm just reading those couple of lines which will help us to understand the context. He is the chief economic advisor to the government today. Domestic problems rather than the global economy's woes explain much of the slowdown. ये कौशिक बासु जी के लाइन है. It is not responsible for us to say, to shy away from that fact. We owe it to our country to point out that fact. ये कौशिक बासु जी के लाइन है. ठीक है, आप एसएनपी के क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं कि इकोनॉमिक पैरालिसिस के बारे में वो क्या समझ सकते हैं, ये डिविजन ऑफ पावर बिटवीन सोनिया जी और प्राइम मिनिस्टर के बारे में वो बोलने को क्या अधिकार है, ये सब बात सही है. मगर आपके अपने चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर खुद कह रहे हैं मुंबई में एक्सिम बैंक के मीटिंग में, डोमेस्टिक प्रॉब्लम ही प्रॉब्लम है, ग्लोबल वोस नहीं है. इसको भी आप नकारेंगे क्या? और अप्रैल में जो प्रोडक्शन कंप्लीटली जीरो के आ गए हैं, उसको कौन जिम्मेदारी लेंगे? डॉक्टर कौशिक बासु also went further, which is important for us to understand. We don't need another SNP report to tell us that. He's already told us something in advance. He was speaking about spirals of optimism and spirals of despair. I am quoting here. Dr. Basu has said, it is suffering, India is suffering from the second type of spiral today, which is the spiral of despair. And it is not clear what might break it. मगर उन्हें मालूम नहीं है कि कौन सा ऐसे कदम उठाने में ये स्पाइरल ऑफ डेस्पेयर रुक जाएगा. मतलब डायरेक्शनलेसनेस. सरकार में डायरेक्शन नहीं है, लीडरशिप नहीं है, उनको पता भी नहीं है कि कैसे ये स्पाइरल ऑफ डेस्पेयर को तोड़ें. This is what BJP has been saying all the while. I am glad that the advisor, chief economic advisor to the government himself has confessed to this in his meeting with the Exim Bank people. The government does not know how to break this spiral. And therefore, in political language, when we are talking, we said there is no leadership there, and that is because there is a complete disconnect between the political leadership and the leadership which is sitting in executive leadership, which is led by Dr. Manmohan Singh. Let us not anymore play with words. I think the government deserves to give, the government owes it to the people to give a very clear explanation as to what are the steps they are going to take to lift this economy which has reached the bottommost level. ये अभी जिम्मेदारी सरकार की बनती है कि ऐसे कैसे कदम उठाएंगे आप इस स्पाइरल ऑफ डेस्पेयर से इस देश को निकालने के लिए, उठाने के लिए. इसीलिए एसएनपी की रिपोर्ट को आप प्लीज आपके मनपसंद लैंग्वेज में रिजेक्ट करिए, मगर आप डॉक्टर कौशिक बासु के लाइंस को रिजेक्ट करेंगे क्या? और अगर करेंगे, प्लीज टेल अस व्हाई. ही इज आफ्टर ऑल योर चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर. The third issue, interestingly, is of a group of ministers who are on a tour around the country, visiting preferably non-Congress states, finding out how they are probably not functioning as the union government is functioning, as though that is an ideal. I'm being absolutely sarcastic because I think it's outrageous that when there are very, very serious issues on which the Union Cabinet, specifically ministers, will have to attend to, we have a group of ministers visiting all non-Congress states and raising issues which are very important. Yes, absolutely. But when they have not answered the country on 2G as to who is finally responsible for it, on Commonwealth Games as to what action has been taken, on the Shunglu Committee's report, which was Prime Minister's own committee report, where several doable, actionable suggestions were made, you have not answered the country on it. You have not answered the country on what is happening in ISRO Devas or Adarsh, where several serious loss-making decisions were taken and questions have been asked in the parliament for which till today you don't get answers. Adarsh, on which you find 3 chief ministers have been left, right and center allocating flats to their own relatives. We don't have answers on that. We don't have answers on the coal mining issue on which there is only time being bought, saying let's wait for the CAG report, there may be something, but don't talk on preliminary report. With so many things, you have a group of ministers, and again, in it, there is a minister who should be keeping up law, and just now we finished off a little, dialogue on how repeatedly he has been held up for breaking law in terms of misleading people with promises which cannot be, kept up. And another minister who doesn't want to subject himself to any kind of investigation, almost like a touch me not. No, you can't. You can't ask for an investigation on certain ministers. They go around to states to ask about what kind of developmental activities are happening. And if they really want to do that, they should really compare. For instance, today they are in Gujarat. They should really be comparing with the same measures with which they want to assess Gujarat, the neighboring Maharashtra, where the last 15 years Congress party has been distributing flats to ministers' relatives, where there are suicides of farmers and no electricity for farmers 24/7. Where there are a lot of scandals coming out every day about how the government's failures are very clearly being observed. If indeed the group of ministers want to highlight achievements and failures of states, they should really be doing a complete comparison between Congress-ruled states and non-Congress-ruled states. Promises were given that within 100 days we'll do this. We will form a group to see how best, what kind of doables can be done on black money issue also. What has happened? Even in the court you've given only half-hearted lists. What efforts have been taken to get black money? What efforts have been taken to control terror or to even take care of Naxal problems, which is again an interstate problem. Many states are involved, center is involved. We find group of ministers going around to different states to question and also to compare performance. When in parliament there was no electricity, villages in Gujarat had 24/7 electricity. And therefore, welcome group of ministers, please, yes, go to states, understand how good governance works. Good administration serves all people and not people of only some sections, rather than going to point fingers based on misleading statistics. Thank you.